Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here, Golden Opportunities Coaching. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is we focus on psychological coaching and emotional topics. We try to do that as often as we can. Hopefully my schedule gets a little bit better. Although my shoulder isn't, hopefully my schedule does. But anyway, today we're going to talk about a topic that I see a lot of with people, and it makes me quite sad, and that is the concept of self-sabotage. So the concept of self-sabotage is something that I think every person does to some degree or another, but there is a history for many people of doing it without realizing they're doing it, and or doing it in a manner which is so predictable. Allergies are no fun. So predictable and ultimately so out of alignment that it can cause long-term problems without even meaning to. So one thing, I'm going to run through about 8 different things, and if you find that you're self-sabotaging, I encourage you to get a counselor, get a coach, get a therapist, go to a minister, find a spiritual guru, find a way to break that pattern, because self-sabotage, especially in a world where we only live for 100 years at most, right, is one of the most negative things we can do to ourselves. And believe it or not, we often, other than the patterns we fall into emotionally about relationships and our false beliefs about relationships, self-sabotage is without a doubt one of the most toxic things we can do to ourselves, or that can happen to a person, because ultimately it can go on for months, years, or even decades in some situations. And if you don't address the root causes, you ultimately are getting into some really rough territory. So there's, like I said, about 8 things I want to go over here. And the first is pretending. So William Shakespeare has a reality that says, or a quote that says, all the world is a stage. And there is a belief system among philosophers that in reality we are all acting when we interact with other people, right? I'm trying to sell you on getting a job. You're trying to sell a person you're dating that you're a good partner. You're trying to sell products or goods if you're in tangible sales. You're trying to sell your family that you really do care about how they look in that red top. Like, we all have to, at some level, to avoid criticism and to socially relate, we have to pretend some of the time. However, when pretending becomes what we do as a default mechanism, what we do the majority of the time, that creates problems, because at the end of the day, if we're not living a true, authentic life, which means we have light and dark, we have positive and negative thoughts, we have balance of energy, and we admit to both, and that's where people get stuck, right? Oh, well, I don't want to admit what I really feel. I don't want to admit that I'm scared to be abandoned. I don't want to admit that I feel that no one will love me completely. I don't want to admit that I think you're cheating because I'm insecure. I don't want to admit that I don't want to be alone. We actually sabotage ourselves by pretending. The most common pretense is that we are okay when we're not. And so when we overly pretend, what we're really setting ourselves up for is a guarantee that sooner or later we will expose ourselves to the truth. And sometimes a person can keep pretending for months. Sometimes a person can keep pretending for years. But sooner or later, in every relational experience, the truth will find its way to the surface, because the more you pretend, the more energy you have to put out to continue the lie, to continue the deception, right? And that's a really big challenge. And I know that even though I'm in this field, there's been relationships that I've been in, unfortunately for me, abusive ones, where I was in an emotionally abusive situation, and I didn't know it until I was out of it. But one of the things that's really interesting was and is that I pretended I was okay for several months before that situation came to a head. And I can actually think of 2 situations with 2 different people where that's true. So pretending, even for those who are advanced, or for those that do a lot of introspection, or for those that think they avoid negative behaviors, pretending is one of those gray areas, because obviously it's kind of like the movie Liar Liar, right? Like, we can't be honest 100% of the time. I don't think the world in general could handle that. So we have to pretend some of the time, but when it becomes our default setting, there's issue in that. So being your own worst critic, right? We all are that person from time to time. I didn't write that correctly. I didn't say the right thing. I didn't do the right thing. I'm not maximized in my relationship life. I'm not maximized in my professional life. I'm not good enough for for a higher power. There's all sorts of ways that we can become exceptionally critical of ourselves. Self-criticism, if it moves you to action to improve your life, not a bad thing. But when self-criticism becomes your default self-talk, it's a horrible thing. Because here's the reality. The energy that you put out, the thoughts that you put out, the way you speak about yourself also says a lot about what people believe you will tolerate. And so there's a big difference between I'm so fat and hey, I need to lose a few pounds, but I'm working on it. There's such a big difference in how we speak about ourselves, in how we criticize ourselves. I always do the compliment sandwich thing. Hey, I need to work on this, but I'm working on it and it's getting better every day. And when we do the compliment sandwich, we can be critical of ourselves, but always end it in a positive light. And as long as positive energy, positive thought is winning out, it is perfectly okay to have negative emotions. It is perfectly okay to fear certain things. But it's when that self-critic wins out that we actually begin to sabotage ourselves. So another one, procrastination. So there's this illusionary thought, especially in Western society, that says, I can do it later. Well, that's great. If you need to take a nap, if you need to get some food, if you need to, spend some time with a friend, or if you just need to relax, if you need to mentally or emotionally decompress. But later always comes, right? So is later an hour? Is later 15 minutes? Is later tomorrow? Is later next week? And the problem that human beings have is when we really don't want to do something and we're deceiving ourselves, we can procrastinate for a long time. We can procrastinate nearly forever. There are things I'm doing now in my life in terms of expansion of my business, specifically cheap plug t-shirts. They should be available in the next month or two, depending on quantities available due to the pandemic. But anyway, company-based t-shirts is something I've wanted to do for 10 years. First had the idea 10 years ago, right? And I'm finally getting them produced 10 years later. Now, lots of things happened in my life. Moved several times in and out of relationships. Looked at doing different things for work. Went back to gain further knowledge to better myself as a professional. Did lots of things. But at the end of the day, I procrastinated constantly over this thing that, truthfully, once I get these made, and my goal is to make a new shirt every month to 2 months, to have a stock of them available for clients and people on social media and all really cool things. That's an automatic income. That's a passive income. And for me personally, as my health is failing and not doing so well, the more passive income streams and residual income streams I can have, the better off I'm going to be as I get older. The easier I can meet my goals in terms of things like retirement or where I want to live. I want to relocate. There's a bunch of things I want to do. But if I have multiple forms of residual income, I can do that easier. Life can become simpler. So the illusion of competition is something I want to bring up next. And self-sabotage due to competition is such a big thing. Matter of fact, I even think that it is probably on this list. Other than pretending and being dishonest with ourselves, I think it's the biggest thing that people do that is self-sabotaging. So we are taught that these concepts, and they're human concepts, they're not spiritual concepts. So I want to stop that right now and say, if you are a spiritual person and you buy into the illusion of competition, you need to reconsider the way you think and feel. Not saying you can't feel that way, but at least reconsider that there might be an alternative. Here's the thing. If we're all created by, let's say, the universe, or God, or goddess, or some higher power, then we all have value. We all have good parts and bad parts. We all have light and dark. We all have positive and negative, which means there's nothing to compare. One person is better at teaching children. Another person is better at running a business. Some people are better at cooking a meal. That's not me. But the point is, people have different skills, different talents, different abilities. If you try to make yourself be something you're not, and then compare that you should, quote, quote, be this thing because your friends are, because your family expects it, because your partner expects it, because living in your country, living in your city, people expect it, whatever it is, you're setting yourself up and sabotaging yourself. You can only be you. In all the world, there is only one version of you. And so that means who you are is unique. Who you are is different. Who you are is special. Who you are is one of a kind on all the planet through all space and time. So that means that to compare yourself with someone else is a foolish waste of energy. Plus, on the practical side, most people aren't thinking about you. Guess what they're thinking about? They're thinking about themselves and how they stack up to the illusion of you. So while you're worried about what other people think, they're worried about what other people think, and nobody gets anything done. See how silly that is? But it's the reality of the world we currently live in, and it doesn't have to be that way. So, disorganization. So, goals are important. Small, medium, and large goals. Goals of different sizes. So a small goal, something you can do in a week or two. A medium goal is something you can do in several months. A large goal is something you can do in a year or more. Have goals and organize them regularly. And to me, regularly is at least 4 times a year. Every 3 months, you should organize your goals and see what kind of progress you're making about your goals. If you're not doing this, you're not living a maximized life. And if you're living a relationship or a job or being a parent or being there for your family or any one thing as your primary goal and it gets all of your focus, you will burn out. So, have multiple goals of multiple ranges in order to live a healthy life. Self-sabotage happens when either A, we have no goals, lots of people, specifically people that have been disillusioned, people that have been through trauma and loss and they don't recover, those people, or the other thing is they have goals, but they don't have a plan to execute them efficiently and effectively. And then it's like, well, I need to do this, but I need to do this, but I need to do that. And what do I do over here? And all of a sudden, you're wasting your net time, no extra time, and getting nothing done. We all, and here's a truth that people don't like to hear, but it's the reality where we are. Every single person has the same 86,400 every day. 86,400 what? Seconds. We all have the same amount of time every day. It's what we do with the time, how we focus the time, and how we use the time that determines success versus failure. And also how we define the concept of success. Again, comparison is foolish. To one person, being a parent is success. To another person, being a parent is failure because it's not what they want. To one person, having a good job is success. To another person, their job doesn't matter as much as their family. There is no universal definition of success. So you have to define what success is for you. Another thing, conflict. So the concept of conflict is the need to resolve differences of viewpoint, opinion, or focus. So conflict can work both ways to sabotage. If you're constantly getting into it, if you're constantly getting into conflict, you are sabotaging yourself. Because guess what? The reality is in the 3 tribes that exist in your life, and if you haven't heard three tribe mentality, I want to do a video or an audio more accurately on 3 tribe. And 3 tribe is a very simple concept. The concept is super simple. It's this. There are 3 tribes that affect every person's life. The first tribe is the tribe that won't like you no matter what you do. They judge you very harshly. They judge you quickly. They judge you rather, in their mind, efficiently. And it doesn't matter if you offer them $10 million, the Klopman diamond, and the cutest physical partner of their choice. They would still not like you anymore. Then there's what I call the conversion tribe. The conversion tribe are the people who actually do judge based on what you do, how you behave, the integrity you show, the qualities and character you show as a person. These are where you should spend the majority of your time, because the more time you spend here, the wider your social circle can become. And then there's the third group. The third group is the people that are going to be there no matter what you do. These are the people that are maybe your family, maybe your friends, maybe your partner, maybe the mother or father of your child, maybe your child, whomever. But these are the people that are your ride or die. They're in your corner regardless of what you do. And that is valuable. But most people, they either avoid conflict or, which is foolish, because if you avoid conflict, you never resolve anything. There's a way to learn to disagree peacefully, and I think I personally am of a very strong opinion that this concept should be taught in schools, like starting at kindergarten, first, second grade. If we teach children how to resolve conflict effectively, and not flowery, not everybody deserves to get along, little snowflake, but hey, it's okay to disagree. Hey, it's okay to be on opposite sides of the corner, and your opinion matters just as much as your neighbor's. And there is no right or wrong in opinion, because opinions are subjective. If we taught this as a social concept, conflict wouldn't be either avoided, and it wouldn't be engaged nearly as much. Because you know what? Okay, this person believes in social issue A. This person believes in the opposite of social issue A. Does it really matter? Like, is your life going to be determined or not based on which side of the political party, or the debate about sexuality, or the debate about healthcare? Is your life going to be determined by where you fall on a debate? No. Which means the majority of conflict is ultimately useless wastes of energy, because at the end of the day, your opinion, one way or the other, isn't going to change the world. It may change another person's opinion. That's great. But the only way to do that effectively and do it repeatably is to learn to go into conflict peaceably. And so of the last two things, one is distraction. We all have them. I call it ooh shiny syndrome. We get distracted. There's a new TV show, there's a new song out, there's a new book we want to read, there's a new girl or gentleman that has our interest. We get distracted. Distractions are wonderful in small doses, especially if we need to unwind or take care of ourselves mentally, emotionally, or physically. But when distractions become something we search for on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, we sabotage ourselves, because we can always find something to catch our attention. Look at how many we have 500 TV channels. When I was growing up, we had like 11. Okay? When I was growing up in the 80s, I think we had 11 or 12 TV stations, and they required two antennas, and you had to hold it just right, and you'd send someone up on the roof. Now we have 500 television channels, and Netflix, and Hulu, and. We have too many choices, which means each choice we have available is, in fact, an opportunity for distraction. So if you really want to accomplish something, no matter what it is, write a book, create a movie, start a relationship, end a relationship, whatever it is, you have to let go of distractions and put your blinders on and get it done. That is necessary. The last one, easy for me to say, is lack of purpose. Every human being needs purpose. Dr. Abraham Maslow, who, if you're not familiar with his hierarchy of human needs, it's a big part of the work that I do, big part of how I was trained. But it says that the thriver's needs are contribution, that is adding to the community, and sense of purpose, sense of being, right? And so the idea is, if you don't know the why you're doing something, if you honestly can't answer a deeper why than, well, because I don't have anything else to do, or because other people told me to, that is the worst reason to do something. Social conformity is the worst single reason to do something because you're not doing it for an actual reason. You're doing it because you don't want to investigate the reason you're actually doing something. Social conformity is the reason so many relationships end in divorce. Social conformity is the reason so many people are unhappy in their jobs. Social conformity is the reason that people fight over social issues. It's because there's this idea that people can't have or don't invest enough in personal sense of purpose and developing that and archetyping that and getting closer to it and getting more invested in it. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have universal rules at some level, like it's wrong to kill puppies and it's wrong to kill people. There are some very basic fundamental societal rules that are necessary, but the number of rules we have versus the number of rules we need is grossly out of proportion. And if a person doesn't know their individual why, they will sabotage themselves sooner or later because they don't have the tentpole of structure necessary to find full success. So I hope this audio has been helpful to you. I really hope that it has enlightened you some. If there's a topic we can cover that would be beneficial to you, please feel free to reach out here on YouTube or on Twitter. But in any event, I encourage you to keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.